Individual technique work is the basis of any player development. Good technique work lays the foundation for all your future work and is an essential prerequisite to good team play, which we shall demonstrate in Programme 2. Players are encouraged to practice skills in a challenging and fun way. In this series, we hope to give you some ideas that might be incorporated into your own training programme. The drills can be adapted to suit your session objectives, the age and ability levels of your players, and the number of players at your disposal. We emphasise lots of player involvement with many touches and lots of movement. Also, the drills are very much game related. We start the skills session with the most fundamental techniques required for young players, passing and receiving. Although very basic, these techniques will be used in all football sessions and so should be practiced as much as possible and at every level and every age group. Throughout our programme, each drill opens with a graphical representation which illustrates the approximate size and setup of the practice. Players start by passing to each other in a 5-metre grid. Encourage players to be on their toes so they can quickly move into line with the ball. This will also help keep their concentration level high. It is only through well supervised repetition that good technique develops into good habits. As a progression, the ball is now moved across the body before being played back. Numerous combinations of touch can be encouraged. For example, receive the ball with the instep of one foot and pass with the instep of the opposite foot. Control or pass with the outside of each foot. Control and pass with the same foot using different surfaces. Inside foot control, outside foot pass, and so on. Ball familiarity with lots of touches helps the player to become confident on the ball, whilst also being challenging and fun. Here you see numerous touches with the instep. Various touches are encouraged using different surfaces of the foot. The player here is comfortable using the sole of the foot to drag the ball in one direction and then the other before making the pass. The players now use a wider grid, and one player moves in and out whilst playing the ball to the other. Players learn to appreciate weighting the pass as distances are constantly changing. The ball can be kept on the floor to start and then lofted to a partner. One-touch players encouraged, developing good habits for young players who become confident and totally natural when making a pass. Using the same size grid, players now pass and move into the next grid. This encourages movement to get into line with the ball before the player makes a pass. The players rotate after a set time or set repetition. In a game situation, most passes will be made whilst on the move, and so once the basic passing technique is okay, allow players to progress to include this movement. Players in pairs set each other up for a long pass and keep moving, short pass, long pass, move. This move encourages players to take the weight off long passes, tidying up for a teammate to be able to choose his passing or shooting options without the need to worry about controlling the ball. This has been done for him. Once the basic technique is mastered, a defender can be introduced. This makes the practice more realistic and game related by putting pressure on the player in possession. Players learn to play with their heads up and be more alert. Players are encouraged to be clever on the ball and use their body action to disguise their intention. The defender here is passive. He is encouraged to close down play but not actively win the ball. We call this drill miss a man. Following an initial 1-2, each subsequent pass is made to miss the next player, who must turn to collect the ball from the player receiving the pass. The sequence is basically short pass, long pass, and can be carried out with any number of players in a line. End players play a 1-2 before the miss-a-man sequence is repeated. The miss-a-man drill encourages good body stance, helps passing and receiving technique, and also player concentration. This sequence is ideal for part of your pre-match or pre-session warm-up. This is the same drill, but this time the end players constantly rotate positions after their second pass. To relate this to a game situation, good support and rotational play is encouraged between defence, midfield and forward players. Players are now forced to receive the ball by coming off at an angle and not moving straight towards the ball. The ball is played back to the serving player. The move replicates the way players can come off their markers. In a match situation, angled runs will unbalance a defence. Runs to receive passes straight toward the passer are easily dealt with by defenders. The player now receives the ball on the half turn and passes to the opposite end player. This open body stance will help players later on be aware of defenders' positions, create space and shield the ball. Again, it is the movement of the receiving player that is important, at an angle to the passer, not straight towards him. Two teams of 3 players pass the ball between themselves. The third pass must go to the opposite side. 2 balls are used in this practice, which increases player concentration levels. Players are encouraged to look before playing their pass to the opposite side. Thus, timing as well as pass quality is now being learnt. Players are constantly on the move and well-weighted passes are important. Sometimes, the receiving player can allow the ball to run across his body whilst looking up to assess his passing options. Again, Once the correct technique is okay, 2 defenders are introduced and only 1 ball is used. The practice is more realistic and game related. Players are encouraged to play the ball forward at the earliest opportunity. The 2 defenders each stay in their half, and so there is a 3v1 situation in both zones. Once again, the defenders start passively and later on are encouraged to attempt to win the ball. Players are encouraged to use any surface of their foot to play an accurate pass into the opposite zone. Dummies, disguises and quality penetrating balls will all be used by the players in possession. Dribbling and turning techniques are essential for successful attacking play. Players should master these techniques and be aware of where and when to use them. Generally, dribbling and turning should be positively encouraged in the final attacking third and discouraged in the defending third of the pitch. Players need to weigh up the risk against the reward. A good starting point to many dribbling sessions is to start with players in a small grid with 1 ball each, simply moving around whilst maintaining ball control. Players can dribble or turn away from each other. Turns can be called by the coach or even by the players themselves. Players now pair off, run towards each other and turn away. To start with, the coach can nominate a turn, but as the practice progresses, ask the players to show various turns. Encourage players to use their imagination. Players now work as a group in a small grid, turning away from the coach or each other and back into the direction from which they came. The coach can act as a passive defender. Players should make their turns sharp and crisp and should accelerate away quickly after the turn with the ball under control. At the start, players may be lethargic and come out of the turn at the same speed at which they go into the turn. This should be discouraged. The same practice, but players move off at a different angle onto the next cone. The direction can obviously be changed throughout the drill. These type of turns would be seen much more in the game situation. This is essentially the same practice. This time, encourage players to use a trick or a turn. Again, to start with, the coach can call the turn. End the session by allowing players to use their favourite turn or trick. Still using the same group and grids, but with a different starting position, players are made to receive a pass, go forward with the ball, turn away from pressure and go in the opposite direction, avoiding the oncoming player before making a pass. This practice incorporates many skills worked on in previous drills: receiving, turning, passing, body feints, all in a relatively small area. The more practice the players receive, the better their development will be. The same drill setup, but this time the ball is received from the opposite end. The players are forced to move off at an angle, receive the ball on the half turn, and pass. Encourage quick movement, as if the players are being marked in a game situation. Now the player comes off a marker to receive the ball, does a trick before passing to a teammate. Players must be alert to avoid colliding with each other. To start with, various moves can be called to force the player to go in the same direction. That is, both players must move to their left, following a trick. The players have started with the right foot cut, and then a left foot step over or right foot scissor move, always moving away to their left. Various alternative turns and tricks can be used. Two teams play 2v2 in the middle, with two players at either end of a grid. Players are encouraged to turn and dribble and pass to the other end. Their partner must move to receive the setback. The practice keeps all players alive. Passing, turning, dribbling and set-up play are all encouraged in this practice. Earlier basic practices have now been developed into a more game-related drill. This is a good practice for midfield players linking up defence and attack. Maintaining possession is encouraged by the use of the end players for relieving pressure. In this next set of practices, players are encouraged to take on opponents using various tricks, feints, dummies and close ball control. Dribbling is one of the most exciting and fun skills in football, and the techniques involved should not be ignored or discouraged. As a warm-up, players dribble around a small grid with a ball each. With so many players, they are forced to look up in order to avoid colliding with each other. The practice is a good general warm-up before starting a dribbling session. Players in opposite corners receive a pass from their partner before running towards each other, doing a trick in the middle. The initial pass makes the practice more realistic and game-related. The player receives the ball, must control it into the direction he wishes to go, and then move. Younger players can start with the ball stationary at their feet. Again, it would be appropriate for the coach to call a turn so that players in the middle go in the same direction, either to their left or right. Players play a 3v3 game and attempt to get into the opposite end zone. This practice forces many 1v1 challenges, which will encourage dribbling. Players are encouraged to shield the ball with their body as they run by using the foot furthest from the defending player in the dribble. Players are encouraged to use as many tricks as possible and use their imagination to experiment, even if they are unsuccessful. This practice must have an ultimate objective for the players, and this is to exploit space behind the last defender with positive forward runs or dribbles. Attacking players are encouraged to drag defenders out of good covering positions to create the space to be exploited. Players of any age enjoy volleying practices. Correct volley techniques are both a joy to watch for spectators and for the player to execute. It is the one technique that players never seem to tire of practicing. Players move either side of two marker cones and volley to their partner using their instep first. As with our passing practices earlier, the movement of the player before the volley makes a practice more game related. The players then progress to using an outstep volley, an unusual technique but fun to do. Players move along a line of servers, playing a volley pass back. Movement and lots of touches are therefore encouraged. Players should keep on their toes as they wait for the end player to move back to the start. The same drill using a chest volley technique. Thigh volley, head volley can also be used. As a normal game is played on the move, we try to encourage movement within all these practices. The players must really concentrate in this set of drills. In this practice, players are again forced to come off at an angle, move and volley back to the server. These drills can be progressed to a small-sided game seen in a while. Players are encouraged to use different foot surfaces to play the volley. Players in a grid run to any server, receive and pass back on the volley. Again, as players are always on the move, this drill can be used as part of a general team warm-up. The movement also forces players to receive balls from various angles and distances and use varying surfaces of both feet, and so developing their volleying technique. A 2v2 volley game where players must volley from one end of the grid to another. Improvisation and good technique are encouraged. Opposing players attempt to intercept the ball and then volley themselves. To keep the practice flowing, if players cannot volley the ball, they can either catch or head it. Heading practices with normal footballs may not start until players reach under 13 level. At that stage, the following practices can be used. We start with a basic drill where the player pulls the ball into his head and heads to a partner. This encourages the player to use his forehead and to use his neck muscles for power. The practice gets young players used to heading the ball with the correct surface and realise that it does not hurt. Incidentally, with younger players, deflate the ball slightly for initial heading practices. With the youngest players, the use of foam balls is a good starting point. For older players, they can be made to start on the floor and jump up to head the ball. This will encourage good spring to give extra height. A similar drill to the volleying practice used earlier, where movement is introduced. Again, concentration levels are high and players need to stay on their toes. Now introduce a passive defender in front of the heading player. This gets the player used to playing with some opposition. A heading game where two players take turns to set up and head through two marker cones. Players are encouraged to head the ball downwards by getting over the ball. Also, power is needed for success. With many of these drills, a competitive element can be introduced. In this game, winning pairs can move up along to the next grid. Losing pairs move down. The top grid can be the stadium of your choice, Wembley or San Siro. Set up and head. Who wins? Many team-related drills can start with the players using their hands to catch the ball. The coach can then go over his key points for the session without concern over foot control. Players are also more receptive to listening and keeping their heads up for the same reasons. It also gets players used to the movement that will be required when the ball is eventually played on the floor. In this practice, receiving the ball in the hand is the first stage in teaching the player a good open body position to receive the ball. Players are encouraged to receive the ball on the half turn, pass to a player on the outside and move off to receive a ball from another player. The same drill progresses to having the ball on the floor. Good open body position is again encouraged. Groups of 4 players pair off. One player comes out to receive the ball on the half turn and passes to his teammate, and they rotate positions. Players are also encouraged to receive the ball on their back foot. Players play in threes. 2 players come out at an angle and into pass before playing the ball back to the third man, who plays the ball into the next 3. The player should be encouraged to go back to a central start point if possible, enabling them to rotate positions each time they come out. Now players play in threes across a grid, transferring the ball from one side to another. Awareness of position of other players is now important, as well as opening up the body. Goalkeeping is a specialised subject, and many teams now have their own goalkeeping coach. We have included some practices in this programme that will help your keeper in various ways. Good footwork movement, a good set position before a shot, agility and coordination are also demonstrated in this next set of practices. In this drill, good footwork is encouraged. The goalkeeper moves around the cones, jumps over the hurdle and sets himself to catch the ball. The goalkeeper must not cross his feet, and short, quick, sideways steps are encouraged as he moves around the cones. See how the goalkeeper glides his feet along the surface and stays on his toes. The coach or server starts by throwing the ball into the goalkeeper's chest. As a progression, the coach now kicks the ball in, adding power and encouraging good hand shape from the goalkeeper. His hand should form a W shape with thumbs almost touching whilst catching the ball. As a progression, the coach now throws the ball wide. The keeper's hands are forward of his body as he collects the ball. The keeper makes a save on one side, passes the ball back to the coach and immediately makes a diving save in the opposite direction. The coach now serves the ball straight at the goalkeeper along the floor. The keeper needs to set his position and then scoop the ball into his chest. The ball can also be served below waist height. A scoop is again the best way to save the ball. Note the way his body shapes up to collect the ball, making a K shape as his leg bends at the knee. In this practice, two servers are used and the keeper makes two saves in quick succession following a small jump over a hurdle and a set. This encourages and helps develop quick reflexes. The goalkeeper is always bouncing lightly on his toes so that his feet are close to the ground. This is essential if he is to react and move quickly to save a shot. Shots are varied and can be hit low, high, or combined to test and push the keeper. Agility and coordination prior to a save are used in the following series of drills. If the keeper can get two hands to the ball, he should be encouraged to hold it. These practices can be very demanding, particularly with younger keepers, and so work on a very few high quality repetitions rather than too many repetitions where quality will be reduced. See the good set position prior to the save being made. The same practice set up, but the goalkeeper now goes under the hurdle first and then attempts to make a save by diving over the hurdle. This time the keeper bounces over the hurdle before diving back in the opposite direction to make a save. The jumping will help develop the keeper's spring.